And welcome to Green Shoes. Our successful business is built on the philosophy of quality footwear and great service. Come see us at Green Shoes in the Medicine Hat Mall. We look forward to meeting you.
So the best place to start would be hearing a little bit about your story.
Well, I've been in the wheelchair 28 years. I was injured a little way south of here. I just graduated grade 12 at Lindsay River Comprehensive High School, Composite High School in Red Deer. And 2 months later, I was heading on holidays with a friend. Asleep in the back of my own car. It was a hatchback. We had the back seat folded down with the bed. And we hit a cow at 12:30 that night. I slid forward, jammed my head on the back of the driver's seat, and broke my neck. And I spent 9 months in the hospital, 3 months in intensive care on a respirator and contraction. And that was 1981. Discharged from the hospital in May 82, moved back to Red Deer, started college 3 months later, and received a business administration diploma in Red Deer College. Got out of college and started speaking with an organization called Smart Risk and toured the country for a number of years, talking to high school students about injury prevention and how every choice they make affects their future.
So in a sense, was that a choice then, the sleeping in the back seat of the vehicle? Or?
Absolutely, it was a choice. In fact, I used to wear my seatbelt most of the time.
Yeah.
The one time I chose not to was the wrong time, but it only takes once. And it was my choice. In fact, we had a discussion that night over who was going to sleep in the back. I won the argument because it was my car.
Wow. So as far as impacts then on your life, on your work, now having a business administration degree and coming out of college, where do you go from there?
A number of places. One of the first things that occurred to me when I started college was how different life was now going to be for me in the way that the community had changed. The community hadn't changed. My ability to access the community had changed. And that was a huge impact on me. And I set myself up to say, I can do something about this because it's not just affecting me. And started working towards that. Volunteered for a number of organizations. That volunteer work turned into a position with a nonprofit agency in Red Deer. I was on the board of directors for a number of years. Was hired off the board as staff and worked for them for 10 years until my appointment as chair of Previous Council.
Excellent. And then as far as travel goes too, because I understand you, well, for one, travel the province quite a bit,
Yes.
but take a little bit of equipment with you when you're going.
Oh yes, yeah, we have a portable track system that allows me to get into and out of bed. When we're home, I have a staff of attendants that come in the morning and evening to put me to bed and get me out of bed. When we travel on business, my wife Diane comes along as my attendant. And I couldn't do what I do without her. She makes my life work and is an incredible support for me. It's not just the lift, it's the wheelchair, it's the track system. I'm also on a CPAP machine for sleep apnea, unrelated to my injury, but it's a condition that I have that many people have. And yes, we travel quite a bit. For business, we're on the road a lot. We also travel for pleasure. We love to cruise. And in fact, we're on our way to Las Vegas in October for a long overdue trip. And possibly the Dominican in February. My brother's getting married and we're trying to make sure it's accessible enough and then we'll go to the Dominican.
Awesome. Well, obviously making Alberta very accessible as far as travels go,
It's a challenge, but as I said, it's going to benefit many people, and not just people with disabilities, but seniors as well.
Okay. So as far as keys and tips, I guess, for staying positive and dealing with a complete life-altering situation, obviously you've made the most of it for yourself.
Yeah, and it's not something I ever really consciously thought about. I was very involved in different things before my injury. I was on committees and things like that in high school. Grade 5, I was appointed by the principal to be the captain of the safety patrol along with a buddy of mine. So very early on, I was involved and engaged in what was going on. And when I was injured at 18, I was on top of the world. Here I was, 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, in great shape, doing everything I wanted to do. ready to start college, and then everything changed, everything stopped. And it meant I had to rethink what was important to me and come up with a way of dealing with it. And as I used to say, I'm basically lazy, so not being involved in anything would have been a big change. And I'm too lazy to change, so I just stayed involved.
Okay. And obviously, you have quite the sense of humor, as I've been told, so I wanted to ask you what your best joke is.
Oh man, my best joke. That changes by the day.
Okay.
There's a guy who's lonely. He's lost his friends. They're all moved away. And he goes to the pet store and wants to get a pet to fill the void. And he goes to the young guy behind the counter, and the young fella says, "What would you like?" And he says, "Well, I'm looking for a friend. I don't have anybody around. Everybody's moved out of town. I'm not a dog person. I had a dog. It wasn't for me. I'm not a cat person. Something new. What do you got?" And the young guy says, "Well, centipedes are all the rage." Centipedes says, "Yeah." He says, "Everybody in Hollywood's got one." "Okay, give me one." So he takes this little house, and he's got a centipede, and he heads home. And he sits in the little house on the table. A little while later, he says to his new friend, he says, "We should go down to Frank's for a beer." Doesn't hear anything. "Let's go down to Frank's. It's a pub down the street. I go there all the time. You'll like it. I'll introduce you to the bartender, some of the guys I know. You'll enjoy it. Let's go down to Frank's. What do you think?" No response. 30 seconds later, puts his face right up to the little house. He says, "I said let's go to Frank's for a beer. What do you think?" This tiny little voice comes out of the house and says, "I heard you the first time. I'm putting on my damn shoes."
I like that one. That's awesome. Perfect. Last question. What would you have to be as your legacy, if you can?
My legacy. Years ago, when I was doing up a resume, someone said, "Put something on the top of your resume that will grab someone's attention about yourself." So I put that my goal was to be in a position to use my skills and abilities to better the world for persons with disabilities. If I can do that in some little way, I'll be happy. If I can leave this place a little easier for people to navigate, regardless of ability, I'll be happy.
Excellent.